Everybody, welcome to Westwing Studios and my new blog series called Every Guitar Has a Story. Look at my guitar collection. I'm going to start with my newest guitars and work my way back through guitars all the way back to 1983 when I got my first guitar, and talk about each one, some of the features of each one, the brands and the story behind my search for them and how I acquired them. This particular Paul Reed Smith that I just got about 4 weeks ago is called the Paul Reed Smith McCarty Korina, and after a 2-year search for this guitar online and everywhere in stores, I finally found one, and at the price that I could afford, and I got a fantastic deal on it. The main thing that I didn't get because of the price was the bird inlays that normally come on a Paul Reed Smith that are beautiful, and I didn't get a Brazilian board. But other than that, it's just a fantastic guitar through and through, and really that doesn't bother me that much at all, because what I was looking for was this wood. This is just the most beautiful. We call it the Holy Grail tone wood. It's just fantastic. In fact, I've been using a Paul Reed Smith SE Korina, which is like a lower quality Korean-made version of this, for the last few years on recordings, and I've used it so much that it just made sense to go up to the next best thing, which was this McCarty Korina. Now, the history of this guitar really starts back in the 50s when Gibson released a series of guitars called the Flying V, the Explorer, and later there was a guitar in that group that wasn't produced called the Modern that was later reproduced as a reissue, as a tribute. They were all made out of Korina, the same wood this one is. And Korina is like this African wood that's a variant of mahogany. It's lighter, and it's actually poisonous. If you were to then have a finish on it and you sniff the dust of it, it could actually be very poisonous. So that's kind of interesting. But anyway, those 50s guitars kind of were not cool when they came out. They were too wild and too futuristic. And the guy that came up with that was Ted McCarty. This guitar is named after him. Ted McCarty was the president of Gibson. So anyway, this guitar is a tribute kind of to Ted McCarty and some of his design ideas, a little nod to those guitars from the 50s, I think, because, obviously because of the wood. And some of the features that Ted had put into guitars back then, Paul Reed Smith had gotten with him later in his life and kind of consulted with him, and he kind of incorporated some of those features into this guitar. So it's kind of a tribute to Gibson at a certain time, and the wood reflects those classic models as well. And I own now 3 guitars that are Korina, and this will be my main playing out guitar. So the wood was so important. It's just so beautiful. You see that natural finish. It's just so pretty. And this is classic Korina finish. Very beautiful, natural, all the way to the neck and everything. It's just so, the figuring's beautiful. The sound, though, is really where people focus, and the reason they do is because in the late 70s, Van Halen's first album came out and put a spotlight on Korina, because Eddie played a Korina guitar on that. It was actually an Ibanez. It was made out of Korina. And so when you hear these opening chords to You Really Got Me, which just changed the world, that's Korina. And it's also a Marshall, but the combination is this classic sound. Now, some other classic sounds of Korina would be something like some of the stuff that Alan Collins did with Leonard Skinner. If you hear some of those songs, Alan didn't really have a really distorted sound, but his tone was so Korina. It's such a cutty upper mid-range sound and very specific, and that's why people are so in love with this wood, and why I bought it. So I spent, like I said, a couple years looking for the right one, and this one finally popped up at the right price, and I jumped all over it. And I am so glad I did. It's such a beautiful guitar. Now, Paul Reed Smith I've been playing since the early 90s, and I wasn't really afraid to buy this guitar online because Paul makes guitars that are so consistent. I mean, I've been playing them since the 90s, and they all play wonderful. They're all set up great. Even the low-line stuff like the SE that I have is just fantastic right out of the box, and this one's no exception. So very excited to get this guitar and use it. Beautiful guitar, awesome guitar maker, and the legacy that it reflects with the McCarty name is something that I really, really enjoy. So thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching.